Hey everybody, my name is Ted Gardner. I'm one of the portfolio managers on Westwood Salient's Energy Infrastructure team. Today we're going to review performance and talk a bit about some M&A transactions during the month of August. Turning to performance, so kind of a flattish month for the midstream space. We had MLPs as represented by the AMZ down about 0.5%, while we had AMEI and AMNA, which include the C Corps, both up around 1%. For the year to date, however, the MLPs have led the space with AMZ up 9.8%, AMEI up 7%, and then AMNA up 4.8%. Broader energy had a better month than what we saw in the midstream space, with XLE and XOP both up between 3.5% and 4%, and oil services up 5.4%. But it's really been the clean energy space that had done the best during August, as well for the year-to-date period, and they're up north of 25% for the year-to-date. Commodities, on the other hand, have continued to struggle. Oil was down 7.6% during August year-to-date. That brings it to minus 10.8%. Natural gas as well has struggled, down 3.5% for the month and down 17.5% year-to-date. Global LNG markers also have lagged quite a bit this year, down north of 20% for both the Asian and Dutch markers on the LNG side. Turning to the different structures, really the month of August was led by Canadians. They were up 4.5% on average and led by TRP and Enbridge. TRP was up 8.1%, Enbridge up 7.4%. In fact, none of the Canadians were down for the month. And as you might recall, both TRP and Enbridge are large positions in the AMNA, so they were nice offsets to some of the weakness that we saw in other parts of the market, particularly in the C Corp space. They were down 1.2% on average, but we had Venture Global, for instance, down 15%. On the other hand, though, Aris Water Solutions was bought out by Western Midstream in August, and so that stock was up 14% on that news. The MLPs were down slightly, down about 70 basis points on average. The only one that was up for the month was Energy Transfer, and that was up just barely. The downside wasn't that dramatic either, with Sunoco being the worst performer, but down only 3.8% for the month. Year to date, it's been the MLPs that have outperformed. They're up 12.6% on average, led by Genesis Energy, which is up almost 75%. And then on the downside, unfortunately, one of our largest positions across our products, Energy Transfer, is the only MLP that's down for the year, and it's down 4.5%. Canadians have also been strong thus far in the year, up 9% on average. That's led by South Bow, which is up 16.6%. And recall that South Bow was the spin-out from TC Energy that included TC Energy's liquids pipelines or oil pipelines, such as Keystone. And then the lowest performer in Canada is also positive at 20 basis points, being Pembina. C Corps, on average, have performed the worst for the year, up roughly 10 basis points on average. Antero Midstream has led the way. It's a nice gas story in the Northeast. It's up 23%. And then on the downside, we've discussed on past videos that Venture Global has really brought that average down. It's down 48% following its IPO in January. August was fairly busy from an M&A standpoint, so we wanted to spend a few minutes reviewing what we've seen thus far in 2025. Overall, there's been $36 billion of transactions during 2025, although two transactions accounted for about half of that. Brookfield bought Colonial Pipeline for $9 billion, and Colonial is actually the largest refined products pipeline in the U.S., and it was previously owned by a consortium, including Shell. And then secondly, we had another $9 billion transaction with Sunoco buying Canadian-based Parkland. When we look at the other transactions, it's been a pretty healthy mix of midstream companies buying private equity-backed companies, buying additional joint venture interests, as well as two consolidation transactions, including Western buying Aris Water Solutions, which extends its suite of midstream services into the water business, and again, Sunoco buying Parkland. We've also seen a few divestitures. But when you look at the list here, you'll see that there's been two companies that have been a bit more active than others in the space, and those are Plains All American, and MPLX. So starting with Plains, they began the year with the purchase of private equity-backed Ironwood Midstream. And then in June, they sold some non-core Canadian NGL assets for $3.75 billion. And that actually netted them about $3 billion in their bank account after paying off some debt and paying taxes on the gains. They used a portion of that capital to buy JV interests in 2 oil pipelines from the Permian, one of which moves to the Houston market and one of which moves to Corpus Christi. So Plains now has a very strategic position on the longer haul pipelines that come out of the Permian Basin. Likewise, we've seen MPLX buy interests in 2 pipelines, one of which was a consolidation transaction where they bought the remaining interest that it didn't own of the Bengal pipeline, which is an NGL pipeline that runs out of the Permian Basin. They then bought an interest in the Matterhorn Express pipeline, which is a natural gas pipeline that runs from the Permian down to the outskirts of the Houston area. They also bought 2 midstream companies to expand their footprint and then helped pay for it by selling non-core assets in the Rockies for $1 billion to privately held Harvest Midstream, which is the midstream entity within Hillcorp, which is a Houston-based private energy company. So both Plains and MPLX are great examples, in our view, of companies that are focusing on their core competencies by really rationalizing their portfolios, selling non-core assets, and then using free cash flow wisely to expand their footprint. Thank you for your time today. Please reach out to your Westwood representative if you have any questions.